Dear students, welcome to the English class. I am your teacher Ranchal Dhingra. In the last audio, that is on Tuesday, we covered some portion of the second chapter Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. Today we shall proceed further. We shall start from page number 19. Till now we have studied that Nelson Mandela has been addressing the audience and he is swearing in as the first president of South Africa. So we'll start from page number 19 now, a few moments later. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters, and troop carriers rode in perfect formation over the Union buildings. So, sometime later, all of them who were present in the inauguration ceremony saw South African jets, helicopters, etc. in an impressive display. Children, what were these helicopters doing in the sky? They were saluting the new democratic government. Awe means surprise. It was not only a display of pinpoint precision and military force, but a demonstration of the military's loyalty to democracy, to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected. Children, Mandela is saying that the display in the sky was not only to showcase the accuracy of the jets and helicopters, but it was a way of military's loyalty to the new government. That means the military also promised that it would go hand in hand with the new government that was formed. Pinpoint precision means the accuracy. Only moments before, the highest generals of South African Defence Force and Police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals from days gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. I was not unmindful of the fact that not so many years before they would not have saluted but arrested me. So here he wants to say that all the police force and defense force saluted him. But this was the same police force that wanted to arrest Nelson Mandela some years ago. So he cannot forget the time when the same police and defense force had wanted to arrest him, and now what are they doing? They are saluting him. Why they are saluting him? Because he has turned up as the president of South Africa. Finally, a chevron of Impala jets left a small smoke trail of the black, red, green, blue, and gold of the new South African flag. Chevron is the zigzag pattern in shape of V. When Nelson Mandela looked in the sky again, he saw a V shaped pattern of jets, leaving a smoke trail of different colors, which were the colors of the new South African flag. They were all saluting the new government. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of our two national anthems and the vision of white singing Kosi Sikalila Africa and black singing Die Stem, the old anthem of the Republic. Although that day neither group knew the lyrics of the anthem they once despised, they would soon know the words by heart. So, children, as on every important occasion in India, we sing our national anthem Jan Gan Man. Likewise, on this day, on 10th May 1994, they were singing the national anthem. Whites were singing Kosi Siklil and blacks were singing Die Stem. They were singing two national anthems and they did not know the lyrics by heart. Why? Because blacks did not know the whites' national anthem and whites did not know the blacks' national anthem. And also there were rainbow gathering. There was rainbow gathering. Different types of people were present in the inauguration. So although they did not know the lyrics of the national anthem by heart, but they would soon learn that national anthem by heart. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a sense of history. In the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth, the white-skinned peoples of South Africa patched up their differences. Okay. Now, children, in this paragraph, the person Nelson Mandela is remembering his past. He is remembering the history. He here wants to tell the first decade about the first decade of the 20th century. The first decade of the 20th century means the year 1900 to 1900 to 1910. Okay, the year 1900 to 1910 was the first century, was the first decade of the 20th century. A few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth. This was the time when Anglo-Boer War had conducted already been conducted, and before his own birth, the white-skinned people of South Africa patched up their differences. Now, this was the decade when the white-skinned people collected together. And why did they collect together? They gathered together to uh, form a system, to erect a system of racial domination. And what was that system called? The system of racial domination? That system was the apartheid system. Now he's remembering that period of time between 1900 to 1910. So they suffered discrimination for nearly 100 years. And now he is also comparing this time with the last decade. Here, if you can see, now in the last decade of the 20th century and my own 8th decade as a man. Here he wants to say that the period between 1990 to 2000, which was the last decade of the 20th century, this is the period when they are free, when they have attained freedom, when this system, the apartheid system, has been overturned, and now they are not facing any kind of brutality or oppression by white people. Because see, on 10th May 1994, that was the period when Nelson Mandela was made the president. So now that system had been overturned forever and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all peoples regardless of the color of their skin. And now they are free, and now that oppression system, that apartheid system, has been overturned. That day had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of people whose suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid. Now, he is thankful to all the people who had sacrificed their lives just for the freedom of their own country. I felt that day, as I have on so many other days, that I was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before me. That long and noble line ended and now began again with me. He is as I said, he's thankful to all those African patriots, and he is saying that he is not the one who has accumulated himself in the freedom of his country. It is the combined effort of all those freedom fighters and patriots who together have led to this day. So he is the sum total of all those African patriots who had gone before me, that means who had already died, who had already sacrificed their lives. That long and noble line ended. Ended means they had already died. Those people, those courageous people have already died, and now began again with me, means that he himself, Nelson Mandela himself, is like a representative of those patriots, and so this line has begun with him. I was pained that I was not able to thank them, and that they were not able to see what their sacrifices had wrought. No, now on this glorious day, on this inauguration ceremony, Nelson Mandela is very happy, but on the other hand, he is sad as well, because he is not able to thank those freedom fighters, those patriots. And why is he not able to thank them? Because they are no more to see what their sacrifices had wrought. So he's feeling pained that they are not alive to see what their sacrifices had resulted. The policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in my country and my people. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from that profound hurt. Profound means deep hurt. Children, these lines can be well explained with an example. I'll give you the example of the current situation which is prevailing, the pandemic, the corona pandemic. Now, children, this pandemic will leave a profound wound in the hearts of the people, okay, and it will take many years for the people to overcome, to recover from this grief. Mentally, emotionally, and physically, they are very hurt. So it will take some time. And likewise, if we now see the chapter, the policy of apartheid also created a deep and lasting wound in the hearts of people, and if not generations, it will take them many years to overcome it. But the decades of oppression and brutality had another unintended effect, and that was that it produced the Oliver Tambos, the Walter Sislers, the Chief Littlers, the Yusuf Dadus, the Bram Fishers, the Robert Suberquist of our time. Men of such extraordinary courage, wisdom, and generosity. Children, you can see the pictures of some great leaders. Yes. So Nelson Mandela is being very optimistic here. He knows that the oppression, the discrimination had ruined them, had many people had sacrificed their lives, but one thing is good, and that was that it led to the production of all these great leaders, great freedom fighters, great patriots. Perhaps it requires such depth of oppression to create such heights of character. Now, children, if a person is very shy, doesn't like to speak much, and is continuously ill treated by probably any friend or parent or teacher, okay, he's continuously being ill treated. Now, one day will come when he will overcome from all his shyness, and he would muster courage to speak up, okay. And that what Nelson Mandela is trying to say here, that it requires such depths of oppression to create such heights of character. The freedom fighters, if you see Lal Bahadur Shastri, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, or Sukhdev, they were not born freedom fighters, children. It the depth of oppression by British people led uh, them to become the freedom fighters and them to become famous in the country, right? This is what he's trying to say here. My country is rich in the minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil, but I have always known that its greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the purest diamonds. Now, children, South Africa is famous for gems, for raw diamonds. So, here Nelson Mandela says that no doubt our country is famous in gems and diamonds, but according to him, the purest diamonds are its people, finer and truer than the purest diamonds. So, the real wealth, according to Nelson Mandela, is its people, the people of South Africa. It is from these comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. Now, children, in this paragraph, Nelson Mandela is remembering the time when he was in prison. As I told you, that he served 27 years in the prison. So he's remembering that time when he and his comrades were there in the prison. Comrades means the companion or the people who work together for the same purpose. So, it is from these comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. Time and again, I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. Idea means any decision when they made for fighting for freedom, then they did not even take a minute in sacrificing their lives. I've seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. Defies me here means shocks the imagination, and resilience, as you can see, the meaning is already written here, the ability to deal with any kind of hardship, right? So here he wants to say that he has seen many men who had a lot of courage, and uh, they showed a lot of strength without breaking, and that could shock anybody's imagination. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear but the triumph over it. Now this line is going to be an important one for you all. This line, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear but the triumph over it. According to Nelson Mandela, uh, uh, a person is not born brave. Okay, everyone has some aspect of fear inside the mind or the heart. So, courage was not the absence of fear but the triumph over it. So, we should gain victory over the fear. It is our responsibility to uh, gain victory over that fear. Fear is very natural, but we should have the courage to gain victory over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. So one a person is not called brave if he's not afraid of anything. Being afraid of anything is very natural, but we need to conquer the fear. We need to gain victory over our fear, and that person will be called brave. No one is born hating another person. Now he's giving us some lesson which we need to learn from him. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. Uh, Again, he wants to say that no person is born with the feeling of hate in his heart. God has not, made us with hate factor in our heart. People must learn to hate. Must learn to hate here, he wants to say, people must have learned how to hate from other people. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. So, if hate can be learned, love can also be learned. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. And it is very easy to learn to love than to hate, because love is a factor which comes more naturally God has already filled in that kind of character in our hearts and minds to love other person. We are born naturally with that factor, love. So it is more it is easier for us to love others than to hate. So he's giving us a learning here that we should try to love people than to hate them. Even in the grimmest times in prison, grimmest, toughest times in prison, when my comrades, as I was telling you, that he is now remembering the time when he was in prison. So, even in the toughest time in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, they were ill treated in the prison. He was there with his comrades. I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards. So, when they were in prison, um, probably Nelson Mandela could see some kind of kindness, some kind of humanity in any of the gesture by the guards there in prison. So, that gesture of humanity, that kindness in the guard, made him think that humanity is still present in the world, and that thinking gave him strength to be alive in the prison. So I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough. It was enough to reassure me and keep me going. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. What does this line mean? Again, this is important. Children, if we say that so and so person is not good at all, is he's very bad, he does not show any kind of kindness, he ill treats people. According to Nelson Mandela, every person has goodness, every person has kindness in him, but it's just that it is hidden in some people. Okay, so man goodness can never be extinguished. It is just that it's like a flame that can be hidden but never be extinguished. Thank you, children, for today. We will do rest of the part in the next session, and as you can see in the PDF, there are some questions. You need to do all of them in your literature notebook. That's all for today. Thank you.